This week's episode of the ArtTactic podcast is brought to you by Artbase. Are you managing an art collection, an artist studio, or even a gallery? Is it time to bring your collection management skills up to a professional level? Well, Artbase is the right software to manage your art business. Artbase allows you to track your artworks and contacts in an easy-to-use, powerful database. You just enter your data once and use that data to generate reports, offers, contracts, and so much more. And they've got a brand new version out right now with a whole new look that can be used on the cloud from any location on any device. So what are you waiting for? Go to artbase.com to learn more and be sure to mention ArtTactic for a 15% discount. Thanks for listening to the ArtTactic podcast. I'm your host, Adam Green. It's been amazing to witness the art world evolve over the past few years. And as we've mentioned on the podcast before, Instagram is really one of the biggest catalysts for this growth. It's transformed a very opaque space into one that's much more accessible. And it's benefited everyone, it seems. Artists, collectors, galleries, auction houses, museums. And an interesting aspect of Instagram is that because all of the art world is on it, you can actually see interactions by different parties occurring publicly that ordinarily may not, such as communications through comments or expressions of support and taste through likes and posts. But given there's so much of this data spread out all over Instagram, it's pretty difficult to digest and determine if there are some interesting patterns developing. Over the weekend, I read a brand new report, the Art Collector Instagram Attention Report, that's co-published by Larry's List and NAMAC, and it's available to download for free at larryslist.com. And they digested the big data on Instagram, and interestingly, they brought to light some really fascinating trends. So in this week's episode of the podcast, we're joined by Jamie Bennett, Head of Social Media and Partnerships at Larry's List, an art market knowledge company, and Jan Serwart, founder of NAMAC, a quantitative art market research company. Jamie and Jan chat with us further about their report and some of their interesting findings. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks so much for listening. Jamie and Jan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. So before we take a deep dive into your new report, if we look at Instagram, tell us what exactly is happening there relating to the art world, and why do you think all of the interactions on Instagram between different users is important information that can be extracted to provide insights onto what actually is going on in the art market?
Well, thank you, Adam, for this question. As you pointed out, it is the case that Instagram has become the number one social media platform in the art world. So all major galleries, museums use social media, Instagram for promotional reasons, and also other subgroups of the art market, like especially the collectors, they use Instagram to discover new art or to follow up what artists are doing, they are collecting. So it's because Instagram is such a visual medium, which is why I think it suits the art market so well, and it's the reason why it has so quickly become the number one social media platform in the art world. But I want to add, so you mentioned that all interactions on Instagram are useful, and here we need to be a bit careful, I guess, because NAMAC and also Larry, together with Larry's List, we strongly believe that not all interactions actually between all users are important in order to analyze, see trends. This is because there's so much going on Instagram, and this, for that case, very easy not to see the wood for the trees, I'd say. So therefore, instead of just looking what all users are doing, NAMAC specializes in analyzing what art-relevant people from different subgroups of the art market are doing on Instagram. And this is why, for example, in the published report, which has come out last weekend in the Art Collectors Instagram Attention Report, we have focused on a specific subgroup of the art market, namely the collectors, what they are doing. And NAMAC and Larry's List together, we are fundamentally convinced that reputation, say, of an artist or the standing, this is constructed in the process when relevant people in the global art market, like famous collectors, are interacting with an artist. And obviously, this interaction, in order to create the reputation, this must be more than just liking something on Instagram or creating a post with the hashtag of that artist. But we are very much convinced that there is a positive correlation, say, between what important people from the art market are doing on Instagram and what they are doing in real life. So when analyzing what is happening on Instagram, we are convinced that we can infer trends that are actually happening in the real world at an early stage.
Very quickly, from the Larry's List point of view, we see that the art world is going digital, and the platform which is really pushing it at this stage is Instagram. So everyone's getting on there, they're connecting, they're making things happen in the digital realm, which are then having implications and translating into real world actions. And a lot of this we got through kind of analytical data. So whether it's through collector interviews, or last year we released our next generation art collector report, and everything was about what's happening online. So teaming up with NAMAC, we're able to actually take it to a more analytical kind of understanding and get some actual real data and see what that means, rather than just these kind of day-to-day experiences.
And so for your art collector Instagram attention report, you specifically looked at the attention artists were receiving on Instagram. How exactly do you do this, and why is this important? Do you think we can make assessments about an artist's long-term career based on this? Or would you characterize this as merely a snapshot in time that can change at any moment?
Very good question indeed. Thank you. So how did it actually work? It's a good question. So what we did in the report is we tracked the attention artists were receiving from art collectors using the public Instagram profile of the artists. And then technically what we did is, for every post that an artist had on his profile, we have created lists of every username who has given a like. So this is very comprehensive at first. And then in the next step, what we did, we used a list with all we used that list with all usernames who have given a like. Then we have checked out of that list who is known to be a collector, and this was possible because of the knowledge about the collector scene compiled by NAMAC and Larry's List. So with our broad set of collectors, we could identify from this huge list of people giving likes, we could cut out the data noise, say, and focus really and specifically on collector attention. And what we did with respect to, is this just a snapshot in time, is because we have analyzed in this exercise a time span of 11 months. So what we generated is actually a dynamic picture for every artist that allowed to see whether on average collector attention is going up or down. So we have really a dynamic picture, not just a snapshot in time. And hence this methodology that we applied gives a very cool dynamic impression of the attention for an artist in the art, and we can track how the attention is actually evolving over time. And why is this important? So besides this report, I'm currently pursuing a PhD in economics and finance at the University of St. Gallen, and there I study the art market as well, and especially I look at how attention influences prices on the art market. And what I showed there analytically is that an increase in attention from collectors is also associated with an increase in prices for the artists. So in that sense, yes, looking at attention allows for making informed judgments about the long-term career prospects, but obviously the analysis needs to be updated from time to time as things can change. So, and it is also very important at this point in time to say that while attention does have real world effects, what we did is by no means like an investment advice or something. It's just an overview of whether it's just going up or down, but this report does not constitute any sort of investment advice. This is clear.
Yes, we are not art advisors. We should premise that. But there is definitely something interesting and valuable to the research that we're able to put out.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that some of these discrete or private conversations that are happening are now publicly made available in many ways through Instagram. And I think your ability to mine through all this data is really fascinating. And so the artists you looked at in your report, were they from a specific age group? And who were the top attention receiving artists in your report? And did you find any trends or similarities between them?
So with any kind of data-driven study, you need to set some kind of scope or limit. And for us, we decided that we would look specifically at artists who were born after 1970 and who are in the art market, the secondary art market. And we found that out by having a review of all of the recent day sales and evening sales from major auction houses. And they also needed to have at least 15,000 followers on Instagram. We found that this is quite a reasonable kind of subset from the entire art market. And we narrowed our list down to 100, making sure we had fair representation. So it's not just American artists, but artists from all around the world, different genders, and different mediums. So when we looked at the art collectors, we began by taking the global perspective. So collectors from absolutely everywhere, from Larry's List database. Of course, this is only the collectors we have. I'm sure there are plenty of others out there, but this is just what we're working with. And we were able to see that there are certain artists who really stood above others in regards to how much attention they're getting from these collectors. And the number one by far was Rashid Johnson. For me, I think this is pretty cool. I mean, he's an amazing artist and he's doing something that's quite contemporary and unique compared to a lot of the other stuff out there. So to see that he's getting all this attention and to see that his prices are going up in the secondary market, I mean, it's kind of makes a lot of sense. There's also on the top, we've got Rashid Johnson at number one, Robert Naba, Amoko Bafo, Jonas Wood, and Salman Tor as our top five. All of them are male. So is this quite typical of the art market that it's male dominated? I would like to say that things are changing and that more females are getting represented, but I would need to get some data on that. I don't want to just give my opinion without having the foundation there. Of this top list, 4 are from the US and just 1 is from Ghana. And interestingly enough, they all have really high Instagram follower numbers. So the lowest is more than 50K. And I think this kind of means like the American art market is strong and it is very established. So artists from that market are getting more attention and they are more established artists as well, considering that they have quite a high account following.
And one thing I found really interesting is the differences in attention artists were receiving by geography. How much variance was there, and what do you think are some of the reasons we can attribute that to?
Yeah, we also explored what the collectors from the US, the UK, and Greater China were doing on Instagram to kind of explore that as a market. So looking at just the collectors based in the US, we saw that the artists receiving the top amount of attention were quite similar to the global list. And I mean, this is pretty much to be expected since the majority of our collectors are actually from the United States, about less than 30%. So with this quite highly influential market, this is, kind of to be expected. But maybe some of the more surprising or interesting differences were that in the UK list, there were a lot more female artists. Actually, exactly half of the list were female, whereas the global list and Greater China list had about 1/3 female, and the US list only had 1/5 as female. We also saw in Greater China that there were a lot more diverse nationalities compared to the other lists. So although the American artists did dominate and were like majority were from the US, there were also a few other exceptions. Like we had Madsaki from Japan, and this is the only Asian artist, or the only place where an Asian artist comes up on the list. And I think it might kind of be due to a regional appreciation, but I mean, this would need a little bit more research. Also, given that collectors from Greater China may prefer more localized platforms such as WeChat over Instagram.
Yeah, we think about the art world becoming smaller and certain artists have global demand. It's interesting to think about these kind of taste differences that still do exist between geographies. And so I'm wondering, you're mining all this big data in complex ways. What advice would you give someone who's an Instagram user, maybe a collector, they're trying to identify up-and-coming artists who aren't yet at that level of popularity of the artists in your report, but perhaps they could be in the future? Is there anything they should be looking out for on social media or on Instagram while they're using it?
I think here again, it's a good opportunity to say that we're not art advisors, and when we're presenting this information, it's not about what to buy or what to sell, but rather an exploration of the kind of trends we can see using NAMAC's data intelligence. So I would rather speak from my own experience here and say, like, actually the best thing to do is just make connections. So go over and find out which collectors you like, connect with them, send them messages, connect with the galleries or any other art world voice that you enjoy, and see what they're following. See if, in their follower list or following list, you can find any new interesting artists. A lot of collectors nowadays, one of the trends we noticed that we wrote about in our Next Gen Art Collector report was that they love to share their collections online. So they're really transparent about what they're buying, what they're interested in, and this goes in their stories, it goes on their posts, and it's a great way to see what is interesting and what is new. And there's actually another fantastic function you can use. You can follow hashtags. So if you're really into, let's say, for example, abstract artists, simply follow hashtag abstract or hashtag abstract expressionism or something along these lines. And you'd be surprised about what weird little paths Instagram will take you down and where you'll end up and what you might discover. But of course, with all social media, the best advice is it's still digital, it's still polished, it's not real. And just when you're interacting, always keep a positive outlook and make yourself, your online self, a positive influence.
I think this is absolutely the right strategy to go forward as an independent to discover new trends and use Instagram in an optimal way. And then for all other institutional, more proficient, say, or professionals, art world professionals that are really institutional, it's always also a good case to analyze the data in a more formal way. There are many different ways of doing that, using Instagram data analytics, for example, to have a better impression of what is going on. And if it really needs to be super specialized and into detail, then obviously NAMAC also does not only do this analysis for the collector group, but also analyzes what other art market groups like the curators or museums, galleries, or general media, what they are giving their attention to. So these detailed specialized analyses are also revealing, but they are a bit demanding to do. But there are obviously cases where it is sensible to do such an analysis, like for strategy analysis for an investor, collector, a family office doing research on the art market in a professional way.
Jamie and Jan, thanks so much again for coming onto the podcast and helping us break down your brand new report, Art Collector Instagram Attention Report, which is available now online for free at larryslist.com. And if our listeners want to learn more about Larry's List or NAMAC, what's the best website?
It's www.namac.ch.
And for Larry's List, www.larryslist.com. Or you can check us out on Instagram. So Larry's_list.
And for NAMAC, it would be NAMAC__.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. It's been great.
This week's episode of the ArtTactic podcast is brought to you by ArtBase. Are you managing an art collection, an artist studio, or even a gallery? Is it time to bring your collection management skills up to a professional level? Well, ArtBase is the right software to manage your art business. ArtBase allows you to track your artworks and contacts in an easy-to-use, powerful database. You just enter your data once and use that data to generate reports, offers, contracts, and so much more. And they've got a brand new version out right now with a whole new look that can be used on the cloud from any location on any device. So what are you waiting for? Go to artbase.com to learn more and be sure to mention ArtTactic for a 15% discount.